So today we've got a reaction video talking about doing something that's going to guarantee that you land the job interview. We're going to be seeing what interview tips that he's got for us and if any of them are relevant for remote high ticket sales. So let's jump right into it.
When you invest 3 minutes into storytelling like that, all of a sudden, they're not interviewing you as a potential candidate, they're interviewing you now as a friend. I find that the people who often get shortlisted for jobs and job opportunities are the ones who've just prepared. And you just think they're lucky? No, it's not luck. Well, it kind of is luck if you define luck as being preparation meeting opportunity. They've just prepared. The opportunity came along, they did the job interview, and because of the preparation, they got the opportunity, they seem lucky. Nope, they were just prepared. I've got a couple.
Seems simple, but you'd be surprised how many people don't actually prepare for interviews. Preparing can look like doing interview mocks, practicing how you're going to actually answer questions. And especially for remote sales, this is important because at the end of the day, they're not just assessing your answers, they're assessing how you answer in regards to your communication skills, in regards to your confidence. The whole thing, the interview itself, is a sales call to you showcasing how you pitch. And if you're not pitching yourself with any degree of confidence, any degree of smoothness, and you're all nervous and it's your first time ever saying this and you haven't really thought through how you'd answer XYZ question, it's going to show and they're probably going to pick someone else. So coming in prepared for remote sales when it comes to the communication side of things is going to be massive.
Friends in the recruiting space here in Australia. And I remember messaging one of them named Jared. And I said, Jared, what are the most common questions that are asked during a job interview? So I'm going to give you the top 10 list that he gave me. All right, you ready? This is the top 10 list of questions. The first one, inevitably, and you must be prepared for this question, whereas most people, they just go into the interview and go, I'm just going to wing it. I'll think in the moment. And, you know, just right. And then they fail at the first question that they know is already going to be asked. And the first question is, so Vin, tell us a little bit about yourself before we begin. That's the first question they always ask. Tell us about yourself. Make sure you've got something prepared for that, right? So I'll give you the 10. I'll fire them off at you. First one is, tell us about yourself. Second one, classic. So tell us a bit about your strengths and weaknesses. Next, why do you want to work here? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Why should we hire you? Tell us about a challenge or conflict you faced at work and how you dealt with it. 7, what is your greatest professional achievement? 8, tell us, why are you leaving your current job? 9, how do you handle stress and pressure? 10, classic one they always end on. So, Vin, do you have any questions for us?
A few things I'll say about some of these. When it comes to challenge at work and how do you dealt with it, you don't really see this for remote sales, but what you will see is how you handle certain objections, how you overcome, you know, XYZ. I noticed them in the, okay, I'll put myself over here. Yeah, how do you handle certain objections? How do you get past gatekeepers if you're doing more of like a dialing SDR, BDR type role, etc., instead of like challenge at work? Greatest professional achievement is probably, I mean, usually this is substituted with your stats, close rates, show rates, revenue generated, that kind of stuff. Why are you leaving your current job? Really important thing to keep in mind here is don't complain about lead flow. Don't complain about your role and the lead quality and all of these things. It's just not going to be a good look. How you handle stress and pressure, that's a huge one that gets asked a lot. And it's especially important because there's a lot of stress and there's a lot of pressure to perform in the sales role. So let's see what he has to say about these. I mean, lastly, you want to make sure you have some good questions. I have a lot of videos on what questions you should ask, but maybe we'll talk a little bit about that in this one as well.
We know, all of us, we know that these are the most common questions. Yet we don't prepare. Do you know what most people do here? Most people give descriptive phrases about themselves, adjectives. They'll say things like, oh, yeah, sure. My values are integrity, honesty, punctuality. My only weakness is that I'm a perfectionist and I do things really well. right? No, connect with people. This is where you build rapport. So if you want to build rapport, let's say, for example, I was applying, and we'll do some improv here, okay? Let's say, example, I was applying for, I don't know, head of innovation at Apple or something, okay? Clearly, I'm an Apple fan, massive Apple fan, Apple nerd. One day, hopefully, they'll bring me in. So say I'm interviewing, they go, so Vin, tell us a little bit about yourself. I can use a childhood story, and I call these origin stories. I think using an origin story when they say, tell us a little bit about yourself is extremely powerful because it shows them who you are, it builds rapport, and if you can link that story into the position that you're applying for, match made in heaven. Hello, Vin, welcome to Apple.
And I say this all the time because the story needs to tell a story of why it makes sense for you to be here right now applying for this role. How did your story lead you here? You know, you always want to tie back most of the answers to the interview questions to why it makes sense for this job, why they should hire you. Because that's what they're thinking about. Every question they're thinking, should we hire you? Why should we hire you? And if you're not answering that in the question, then then you're leaving it up to interpretation and they have to kind of come up with the answer and try to decode it when you could just give them the answer.
We can tell you're very excited. You haven't been able to stop shaking your leg for the last 15 minutes while you're in the waiting room. But Vin, before we begin, tell us a little bit about yourself. Thank you for noticing the leg shaking thing. Look, if I had to tell you a little bit about me, there's one memory that comes to mind. When I was young, I got to ask you this. What do you think a 13-year-old boy wants more than anything? A PlayStation, sex? Well, close. Love. It's love. And thank you, Brad, for being so transparent. But I wanted to find love. And Brad, I remember asking my dad for advice. And I asked my dad, I said, Dad, I want to find love. What do I do? And you know what my dad said to me? My dad looks me dead in the eyes, 13, and he goes, okay, no money, no honey, man. And I thought, damn it, Dad, that's really wise of you. It rhymes like Eminem. So I thought to myself, okay, how am I going to make money as a 13-year-old? And that's when I discovered eBay. And one of the things about me, Brad, is I'm an early adopter. So my friends didn't know what eBay was at the time. It was 1999. So I got into eBay, I borrowed my mum and dad's credit card, and I purchased 30 MP3 players and I sold them to my friends for double the price. I love entrepreneurship. And as a result of doing that, I made double the amount of money. Parents were truly pissed off, but that set me off on a journey. It set me on the journey of entrepreneurship. And as an entrepreneur my entire life, I'm an early adopter. So whether it comes to MP3 plays, whether it comes to the latest AI that's coming out, one of the platforms I've been playing with is Udio. And Udio is a wonderful platform that can use AI to create music. Whether it's the Apple Vision Pro, I'm on it. I'm an early adopter. And I share this story about my past with you because that's why I'm applying for this role. Is I know that for someone in the head of innovation, you need someone that's not just saying the right things and talking about technology. You want someone who's actually an early adopter, who's living and breathing things that are just coming out. I don't wait until it's cheaper. I don't wait until it's been in the market for 3-4 years. I'm the first one waiting in line in an Apple store. And when you release the Apple iPhone 16, you can bet your butt I'm going to be there at 6 a.m. I'm an early adopter. That's why I'm perfect for this role. Again, right, that's me spending about 3.5 minutes sharing a story. Now there's laughing moments and like, oh, no money, no honey, that's a good one. I built rapport, there's endorphins flowing through their body. I've been conversational, we're friends, I ask them questions. The entire interview situation now is relaxed. Again, you know that when you storytell, dopamine, endorphins, oxytocin, all these wonderful chemicals. Now the rest of the interview, they're going to treat you like a friend. They're not going to sit there and be like, question to question to question to question. No.
So it looks like he's kind of wrapping it up there. I kind of want to go back to the interview questions here to see if there's anything we missed, right? So it's talking about like, what are your strengths and your weaknesses? One thing I don't want us to miss out on this is he kind of alluded to it. Don't give like a fake weakness that's not real, you know? Oh, I'm a perfectionist, or I work too hard. I don't know how to separate my personal life and work because I give up my whole personal life and my wife and kids hate me because I sacrifice everything for the job. Like, don't do that, right? But what you do want to do is you showcase your self-awareness and your resourcefulness and willingness to grow, especially for sales. You know, being low maintenance is huge. A sales manager would love to hire a rep who's self-sufficient and can grow and improve on their own. So saying something that's a real weakness, so you have the awareness to identify the weakness, but at the same time, you can also showcase that once you've identified something, you don't just sit around and wait. So you identify the weakness, then you say what you've done to solve it or to improve it, but then you have to talk about the results of what you've tried and make it clear that it's still an ongoing, in progress thing. Because if you say, oh, this is my weakness and this is what I've done to improve it, and leave it there, you can't, like, if it's not a weakness, then why'd you say it? So you don't want to say it as if it's, hey, this used to be my weakness and I've solved it. You want to make sure it's ongoing, but you don't want to say a weakness and just be like, yeah, this is what I suck at. Do with that what you will. You want to showcase that you're resourceful. So you would say like, hey, XYZ is my weakness. Is one of my weaknesses right now. I've tried X, Y, and Z to improve it. I've seen an increase in this and that since I've implemented this. The next thing I actually plan on implementing to continuously improve is this. But yeah, it's still definitely a work in progress. That's how you answer the weaknesses question. And then obviously the strengths, you're talking about your strengths. And if you have a story, if you have a result that you can tie to it, hey, one of my biggest strengths is this. I remember I utilized it in this scenario to achieve these results, these metrics, these numbers. That would be huge. That's one thing I just wanted to mention here. Obviously, we can go through these one by one, but I've got individual videos on some of these that you can check out on my channel. Other than that, though, hope this was helpful. This was some really good advice here, especially on that tell me about yourself bit. Make sure you do have that origin story, or at least just a story of your last, 2 or 3 jobs, the things you've learned, the things you've gained, the things you've grown, what you're growing into, and why it makes sense for you to be taking this next step in your career. It's going to be massive and help a ton when you're answering these interview questions, and mock it out, practice it, role play it with someone. So it's not your first time ever talking about yourself. And that way you can say it cleaner, smoother, and have those communication skills on lock. See you guys in the next video.